Hello, and thanks very much for joining me. My name's Simon Kelly, and I'm Solutions and Partnerships Manager for ChannelAdvisor in APAC. And today I'll be talking to you about how to sell internationally via marketplaces. And predominantly, the focus of today's talk is going to be about how to sell into Europe. And then we'll do a bit of a discussion on some of the marketplaces and some of the consumer values in relation to sustainability and green products. So today's consumer journeys have more options than they've ever had. Consumers are looking for product information through Amazon. They might be researching products through Google. They might be filtering what choice they're going to make depending on how sustainable the delivery method is, or what brands are choosing the right types of packaging and biodegradable packaging to send their products in. And more than ever, that's a large part around what the consumer is basing their decisions on. When you're looking at how you want to expand through to Europe, part of the decision is to go, well, where are customers discovering products? And so we know that on average, it takes 8 touch points with a brand before a shopper decides to make a purchase. So you as a brand or a retailer need to make sure that you can be across as many of the different important touch points as possible to put your best foot forward for doing that. So what we know is that marketplaces lead to discovery. So we asked 5,000 customers. We polled them evenly across all age groups and genders around how they've discovered the products that they've purchased online. We see here that 42% have found their products while browsing marketplaces. You can see a significant amount using brand and retail websites, word of mouth, and as well as social media and Google. But the most important to be across is the marketplace side. And this remains true when we look at the data from the UK, the data from France, or the data from Germany. And we'll make sure these slides are available to those viewing the presentation so you get some more information there. And if you want to drill into the rest of those numbers. So, I mean, the benefits of selling on marketplaces are many and varied, but I tried to break it down to some quite simple areas that you can look at, right? First and foremost, it's traffic. So you're looking at a ready-made audience. And you can leverage the larger ad budgets that these marketplaces have. They are finely tuned to convert the shoppers well. When shoppers, as we saw earlier, they're discovering products through marketplaces and there's a high buyer intent. And constantly the marketplaces and you as a seller will have tools that you can use to drive conversion at a higher level. Marketplaces mean that you can experiment. So you can test and learn in new markets and new channels relatively quickly via setting up your own e-commerce operations or web store there. And by leveraging partners like third-party logistics or fulfillment by Amazon, that can be a good way to do that as well. These shoppers have a higher average time spent on site, which means that the basket size can often be higher, which only benefits you as a seller. To increase that brand awareness as well, it's making sure you take control of the advertising tools that are available. And again, leveraging the ad budgets that these marketplaces have so that your brand can be found by somewhere halfway across the world. What we do know, of course, it's been a big couple of years for e-commerce, and so we know that the retail growth rate, the e-commerce growth rate in Western Europe is 5.1%, and certainly if we look at Eastern and Central Europe, that's up by like 6.6% as well. So we know that the market there is significant. So the amount, why look at Europe? Well, because it's the market there is still growing at a very nice clip. And we know that marketplaces are driving growth for sellers. And so, and as consumers shop both online and in store, multi-channel and marketplace formats will drive 86% of the sales growth for the next 5 years. And this is from a Euromonitor report with Google. And you see the vast majority of the countries involved here and surveyed are from Europe. So having a marketplace strategy is essential if you're looking to grow throughout Europe over the next few years. But the trouble is the execution, and executing at scale can be difficult, right? So making sure you've got resources, language support, expertise in the channel. How do you stay on top of customer reviews? How do you make sure you price the right way so you can make enough margin? Making sure that product information is up to date, images are appropriate for the marketplace, you're choosing the right audience, and you're keeping up with your competitors. So there's a lot to think about and a lot to manage. So, of course, coming from an e-commerce platform like ChannelAdvisor, a large part about what we would think about is how can you automate as much of this as possible to enable you to scale? Because it's more than just listing that's important. So gone are the days where you could just list your product up on a channel and then you would have success. So the first step is to really connect, and how you're connecting to marketplaces. And so which is, how do you get your product information from where it is and then through to that marketplace channel? And then when it order happens, how does that flow back through their system so that you're able to actually deal with that? The next step is how you market it. Okay, so how do you make sure that you're marketing to the right people at the right time for the right ROI? And if that's using Amazon sponsored brands, if that's utilizing EDMs and banners through a marketplace, if that's using Google Shopping and Facebook, that's all parts of what you might need to look at to make sure that you can grow and be found in market. Selling. And so this is where it's really important, right? Like, this is why we're here, is to actually enable the sale. So are you priced the right way? Is the product packaged the right way and bundled the right way and explained the right way so that the customer has all the information they need to purchase? Then it's around how you support them. So arguably one of the most important parts of this is how you're fulfilling, and especially when you're looking at how you can fulfill in a way that's going to satisfy a client that demands the respect of sustainability and green products. So how can you package that in the right way? What partners can you use to make sure that that you can fulfill the requirements of the customer? And then how you tweak and change, how you optimize, how you adjust your titles and your descriptions and your images and your promise so that everything gets a little bit better every time you make sales through marketplaces. So, and that's what ChannelAdvisor does. We help brands and retailers to sell internationally via marketplaces. So we support over 350 marketplaces and retail channels all over the world. But of course, today we'll focus on Europe and European marketplaces. Now, much like marketplaces in Asia, European marketplaces can be there's structured all over the place, right? There's many different channels. So part of what I'm focused on today is simply a few marketplaces that you could have a look at. And this is only a small portion of the total amount that's available and the total amount that ChannelAdvisor support. It's important to understand how things are happening within Western Europe at the moment. And before we jump into which marketplace channels and whereabouts you're looking to sell, look at the extent of growth we're looking through retail e-commerce sales between 2022 and 2026. That's growing steadily. And that share of e-commerce sales is just on 15%, but mobile commerce and m-commerce being 47% of that. So much of what's driving that is, of course, the same thing that's driving that in Asia, right? And same thing that's driving that in Taiwan is marketplaces and social media. And so let's touch on how frequently people are shopping online. If you're like me, you're probably shopping more than once a day, but that's not everyone, right? So we see whether it's UK, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, or even throughout Europe, you see such a large proportion of shopping online more than once a month, and a significant proportion shopping more than once a week. So the frequency that it seems like more are than not shopping online on a really regular basis. And where you start is we'd start from a general marketplace, right? So when we look at the large general marketplaces in Europe, of course, it's places like Amazon, eBay, and Frugo. And so these are broad general marketplaces that are really available all over Europe and the UK. Of course, and I'm not going to touch on Amazon today because there's another terrific talk about Amazon where they'll go through much more detail of that. eBay, there's versions of eBay all throughout Europe. Same deal with Frugo, same deal. I mean, with Cdiscount, of course, it's focused on France. If you're selling in terms of home and garden, then again, there's many different options available for you here. So whether that's someone like a Mano Mano or Allegro or OnBuy or Laredo, there's so many different channels. So you need to do some research on which countries, think about tax, think about where you're going to be shipping from. But there's lots of different options available for you here. And again, I can't go into detail on all of it purely because of time, but these are a few that I would have a look at. So definitely have a look into Allegro. I caught up with that team last week. They're actively looking to expand the amount of sellers they have coming throughout Asia. Otto, German headquarters, massive marketplace. Mano Mano, obviously, as I showed, there's a lot of different marketplaces, but it's headquartered in France. OnBuy and Laredo. We're looking at consumer electronics. There's a few different types of channels that come up here, right? So again, one to focus on would be Frugo, but I'd also be looking at Back Market and OnBuy and Cdon and Allegro as well. But again, it depends on where you want to go about doing business. For sports and outdoors, looking at some of the really big guys in market, whether it's Decathlon or JD or Sprinter in Spain. Fashion centric, and you may know some of these marketplaces already, but some of the larger ones to consider would be places like Zalando or About You, or even a Found, which is there's a whole range of different channels available to you. So certainly our customers have significant success selling through Zalando, but it's part of when you're selling on a fashion marketplace, it's ensuring you've got the right sorts of product data there. And I'll touch on a bit of that in a little bit. And with an idea towards sustainability and why this is so important and why this is combined is that these marketplaces and the consumers are demanding that of you as a seller. So through Zalando, customers can find more sustainable fashion with 500 brands through the channel and over 140,000 items. They've got the goal to generate over 25% of their GMV with more sustainable products. Otto, of course, they're sending in recyclable poly bags, and sellers must sign a declaration of sustainability in order to sign up to the Otto marketplace. But what we know is across all EU countries, customers are more likely to buy products that are made and delivered in a sustainable way, with consumers from countries with a higher GDP willing to pay extra for those items. So the number of consumers and customers are supporting sustainability in e-commerce is growing year on year in every single EU country. So I'll go through a little bit now, a bit more broadly, on strategies for success. So the components of a successful marketplace strategy start in operations, making sure that the products that you want to sell are listed correctly. Do they have the right quantity? And how are you fulfilling that? Once that is set up, you've got the plumbing done, which is all your product data flowing through and hopefully using a partner like ChannelAdvisor to list, then it's okay, I'm selling, then how do I expand? How do I add more product through these channels? How do I add more countries that I'm doing business on? How do I add more marketplaces? While you're doing that, you need to be optimizing. So if you're not changing what your strategy is, if you're not changing your pricing, your content, your data, depending on the channel, then you're not going to succeed. So the factors to consider are the product data. Is it specific for that country? Do you need to look at getting translation done? How are you going to manage returns, and where are you going to store your inventory? Are you going to use a third-party logistics provider, or are you going to use Amazon FBA? How to make sure you're factoring in what costs you've got for shipping and how you'll price in that given market. Who's going to, on a day-by-day basis, solve the errors? Because the more channels that you're listing on, the more errors you're going to get from those channels. So that's a constant process you need to look at, and that's something ChannelAdvisor can help with. The optimizing the product data on the marketplaces listing themselves, and then how you're dealing with reviews and customer service in a different time zone. Do you outsource that to a team in Europe, or do you want to manage that locally from where you are? So to start out, you need to understand what's expected of you as a seller. And again, like, data is key. So in order to be found, make sure you've got the right type of information. If you don't, and if you don't adhere to these, to the guidelines, then you may not be able to sell successfully through the channel. Look at what your competition might look like through those different marketplaces. Develop a pricing plan specifically for that. And then ensure that as many of your products that you can list overseas. Analyze ratings and reviews, and take advantage of advertising opportunity. So look at Amazon advertising, look at eBay promoted listings, look at ways that you can pay to ensure that your products can be found. And don't try and do this yourself. Leverage a technology partner or multiple partners if you need to make sure that you're not wasting your time and money on trying to do this manually. And that's exactly how ChannelAdvisor helps. We're trusted by the world's largest brands and retailers since 2001. And this is precisely what they use us for. They use us to make sure that their products are found and are available through marketplaces and digital channels globally. So ChannelAdvisor, we're the complete multi-channel solutions for brands and retailers. So whether it's the connection, the marketing, how we go about helping you to sell, connecting you with the right fulfillment channels and partners, or the optimization of all of that, this is exactly what we do. And so there's sort of 5 main areas where ChannelAdvisor fits its services. So today I've been talking mostly about marketplaces. We also, of course, look after marketplace advertising and retail media. We can help you to deal with things like feed management. We can help you to sell through more and more different first party and retail partners, and we can help with the fulfillment side of things. So we are built to scale. Over 2.4 billion products uploaded to ChannelAdvisor every day, with 168 million listings repriced per day during the Cyber 5. And again, we support over 350 different marketplaces globally. So thank you very much for your time and for listening to my presentation. Please, if you'd like some more information, there's a site there to request a demo, and we'll have someone from our team actually reach out and answer any questions that you've got. So it's been a pleasure. Thanks very much for your time.